Hi, I'm Benji Hardy, and I have your news headlines for Tuesday, March 31st with the Arkansas Times. Of course, the big news for today is developments on HB 1228 at the Capitol. Before I get to that, I'm going to mention a couple other news items, and then we'll talk about the big bill. Libraries at the Capitol got a $1 million tax cut yesterday, as the Revenue Stabilization Act included a decrease in their funding. One of the things that changed between a previous draft of the state budget and this new Revenue Stabilization Act is that a cut to the capital gains tax that had previously been rolled back has been reinstated. That cut will cost about $12 million to the state when it's fully in place. So that's worth mentioning because this $1 million cut in library funding from the state comes partly so that the state can pay for a capital gains tax which goes to some of the wealthiest taxpayers in the state. That could have a big impact to the Central Arkansas library system here in Little Rock, but its real pain will be felt in rural libraries around the state that depend heavily on state funding. A bill has died in committee by Representative Clark Tucker that would provide maternity leave to state employees for up to 6 weeks. It would have cost the state about $350,000. It attracted widespread bipartisan support, including from Republican senators such as David Sanders and Missy Irvin, but other Republicans, including the chair of the Senate Public Health Committee, Cecile Bledsoe, have refused to let the bill come up for a vote again, so it's probably dead for this session. Again, I think it's worth comparing those numbers, $350,000 cost to the state to provide paid maternity leave for state employees versus the $12 million capital gains cut that the legislature has just reinstated. Okay, but let's talk about HB 1228. That, of course, is the big religious conscience protection bill / anti-LGBT discrimination bill, depending on which side of the issue that you're on, that is consumed talk at the Capitol this past week. In the past 24 hours, a few more notable voices have come out against HB 1228, including Axiom, a major employer here in Central Arkansas, the Little Rock Chamber of Commerce, Mayor Mark Stodolo of Little Rock, and perhaps most notably, former House Speaker Davy Carter, who is a Republican himself and led his caucus in the 2013 legislative session. He took to Twitter last night to encourage members of the Arkansas House to vote against HB 1228. Now, at the Capitol itself, the bill was passed by the House this afternoon. There was talk this morning that there was some sort of a compromise possibly in the works between Asa Hutchinson and the conservatives who are leading the charge on the bill. That'd be Representative Bob Ballinger and Senator Bart Hester, and progressives such as Representative Warwick Sabin and Senator Joyce Elliott. The governor talked to both of those sides and was supposedly attempting to figure out some sort of a way to compromise on the bill, but if there has been any compromise, we haven't seen it so far. Instead, the House passed the unamended version of the bill. It's headed to the governor's desk now, and the ball is really in his court about what he's going to do next. People are urging him to veto it. The protesters at the Capitol filled the halls today, and I'm sure that the messaging is only going to get louder in the hours and days ahead. Now, a couple of words about how that gubernatorial veto works. In Arkansas, a governor can veto a bill, but it takes a simple majority of the legislature to override it. So in other words, if the governor were to veto the bill, it would go right back to the legislature, and with a majority vote, by which they originally passed it on to him in the first place, they could override his veto. A lot of that depends on the authority of the governor. Does the legislature really want to override the governor's decision and defy what he has to say about a piece of legislation? On a smaller piece of legislation, maybe not so much, but on a big bill like this, it's harder to say. It might create some definite divides within the Republican Party. So we'll just be watching and waiting to see what happens in the hours and days ahead. Check back with us tomorrow for more news.